It is very key and important. I was somewhere earlier this week when I spoke about, addressed a gathering on sexual violence and drug abuse. One of the things I raised in that gathering was the issue of how quite a number of our young ladies fall victims of rape because when they when they go out with either their when they go out with either their friends or associates, they forget themselves, and in the process, their food or their drinks are laced with drugs. And so, in that situation, they become vulnerable. And when they become vulnerable, they become a victim of rape. So, one of the things you must do not leave your drink or food unattended to at any party or social gathering, because the very moment you step out, your food or drink will be doped. Another thing is yeah, sorry for that. Another thing is act like a broken record. That is, when you are offered, because the people offering you, they want to make sure they convince you at all costs, because they need you to be like them. So when they offer you, try as much as possible to continue to give 1001 excuses, reasons why you cannot take such. And that is what I regard as acting like a broken record. Then another way is cold shoulder or ignore. In some situations, you may not even need to talk, but when you turn cold, what you call your body language, your countenance, and everything will show that you are not likely to be part of the gang or the scheme. Now, another point is do not follow them to isolated, deserted, or lonely places. Now, you have friends who perceive you as clean, as decent, and so they'll be trying to look for every means to pollute you. So, as a young person, whether male or female, one of the techniques to avoid falling a victim is to avoid following these elements into isolated places, deserted places, or lonely areas. Then, let's quickly look at what are some of the things. Maybe another thing. Let me, before I move to what we expect parents to do in this scenario, is one of the key things that as young people, even as adults, we need to do is to arm yourself with information about drugs and drug abuse. When you arm yourself with sufficient information about drugs and drug abuse, you will know how to say no. You will know how to stand your ground, and you'll be able to, you recall I said you must act like a broken record. So you will be able to have sufficient information to stand your ground. That is giving reasons why you cannot take such. Then another technique, don't forget that some of these skills are abilities to resist illicit drug use or abstaining from them. So they border on decision-making skills, interpersonal relationship skills, communication skills, refusal skills, assertive skills, and so on. Now, another thing is you must learn to change the subject of discussion. When they come up with the issue of, oh, this drug, when you take it, it makes you high. Having said no, having sounded and acted like a broken record, you must also learn how to change the subject of discussion. Now you can suggest alternative activities. Like I told you before, you can come up with a cold shoulder or ignore the person or persons. Don't forget, I also said you can also walk away. Nothing stops you from staying in such a gathering or location. Then another thing to do or skill to avoid falling into drug abuse or addiction is to be involved in hobbies or positive pastimes. Things that you do that will give you that will give you pleasure, that will be beneficial to your body, to your mental, psychological, and physical well-being. So you'll be involved in all those. That way, you have nothing to do with drug abuse. Well, this one may sound somehow, but then it's another fact. That is getting involved in religious activities. Whether as a Muslim or as a Christian, if you get involved in religious activities, this has a way of getting you off the temptation. Then again, I think avoid situations or places where drugs are abused. Definitely, you know certain spots where the pastime there is drug abuse. So you must learn to avoid such places. Then also learn to avoid people who use drugs. Another thing is build self-esteem. Know your positive qualities and depend on them when under duress. You will come, like I said, you will come under duress, pressure from these friends who want you to be what they are. So you must develop that self-esteem that would give you that positive qualities and on which you can rely to resist pressure and stress. Coming under duress. Then for the young people, would also encourage them that one of the ways, the techniques, the skills to avoid drug abuse and drug addiction is to be committed to the academic or school activities or your work if you are employed. If you have a job, if you're already employed, please get committed and get busy. That way, you would not, drug will be the last thing on your mind. Then another way is to obey rules and regulations in schools, in homes, and workplaces. There is no school There is no home, there is no workplace where it will be allowed to take drugs, illicit drugs. I doubt if you have such places. So there are definitely rules and regulations guiding good behaviors in these places. That is in schools, homes, and workplaces. Obey them. Then, when in problem, confide in your parents, your teachers, religious leaders, as well as trusted adults. All of this would would help you a lot in avoiding drug abuse and falling into addiction. Now, maybe we'll have to make the next thing I want to discuss another topic, that is responsibility of parents. So I wouldn't want, because I need us to give enough space for our people to contribute. So I'd love to invite my friend and colleague, Dr. Ibrahim Abdul, to talk briefly to us on the work of his directorate, that is Directorate of Access and Financial Investigation. I want to invite my friend so that together, when we open the space, you can ask questions either from myself, anyone that borders on the general work of the agency, I will answer. And if the question borders on access and financial investigations, like I started last week, he will he will talk more on that briefly for the next 3-5 minutes. Then we can take all the questions and contributions together. Thank you very much for listening. Now I welcome Dr. Ibrahim.
Thank you very much, Mr. Femi, for this elaborate and highly educative discussion on drug abuse. As he rightly pointed out, the agency's jurisdiction is not limited to apprehending drug and seizure of drugs. There's more to it than meet the eye. Apart from the general functions of the agency under Section 3, subsection 1B, which says the NDLEA is the general coordinator of all drug laws in Nigeria, there is a specific function of arresting money launderers. That is those who hide the source of their income, especially the one that has to do with predicate offense, to put a sham and a mask to cover their faces to avoid recognition by the eye of justice, which is NDLEA. By virtue of Section 3, subsection 1C, the agency has power to adopt measures to identify, trace, freeze, confiscate, or seize proceeds derived from drugs or drug-related offenses or properties which correspond to such proceeds. In addition to the powers given to the central bank, the AFCC, the NDLEA is also a co-enforcer of the Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2011 as amended. By virtue of Section 15, subsection 1A, the agency has power to apprehend any person converting resources or property derived directly from illicit traffic in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances, or anybody who collaborates in concealing or disguising the genuine nature, origin, location, disposition, movement, or ownership of the resources, property, or right thereto derived directly or indirectly from the act he has committed. Money laundering, as you know, started from the Colombian drug cartel. You must well known that it's a well-known fact that cannot be disputed that there was these Colombian cartels that have acquired notoriety to be noticed judicially and worldwide recognition also. You know the Cali cartel that was led by Pablo Escobar, and there was the Medellin cartel that was led by Rodriguez Grachas. Those drug cartels made a lot of money from drug trafficking. And because of the pursuit by law enforcement agencies, they now saw it as a necessity for them to hide the loot. They devised a means of money laundering to wash their dirty money clean. So money laundering simply means washing dirty money clean, just like you launder your clothes, to have a mask and a sham to cover their faces so that they will not be recognized. But some say money laundering offenses did not start from the Colombian cartel. Some said it started since wayward, since 1930, when in Delaware, when some New Jersey people sought to now evade tax, and some prominent people there now had to be paid certain amount of money to help people now evade taxes, while others now help some people who got a lot of money from criminal activities to hide their money in Switzerland and other offshore financial centers like the Cayman Island, the Bahamas, the Isles of Man, Liechtenstein, Niue, Nauru, and most of those countries that once came under the colonial domination of Britain. So towards the end of the 20th century, it became a thing of concern that there were three major offenses that bedeviled the whole world: drug trafficking, dealing, money laundering, and terrorism. And therefore, all members of the United Nations, through the 1961 Singles Convention and the 1971 Convention on Psychotropic Substances and the 1972 Additional Core Protocol, then the 1988 Convention Against Illicit Traffic in Narcotic and Psychotropic Substances, now mandated all members to make institutional and legal framework in their own entities or jurisdiction on money laundering and drug trafficking. And that was what brought the NDLEA into limelight in 1989 through Decree 48 of 1989. Since then, the NDLEA make their charges in court. They do to kill two birds with one stone. Wherever there are charges of drugs, there are also charges of money laundering. So, and that was why when General Marwa assumed the leadership of NDLEA, within the short period that he has stayed, almost a year now, or the Department of Financial Investigation was able to record more than 211 confiscations. And this confiscation, many will be prompted to ask the question, when you make this confiscation, what do you do with those assets that you seized? What we do first and foremost is that once a person is arrested with drug, we seek for interim forfeiture of his assets so that they will not be dissipated by friends and close relatives. And when he is convicted in court, we apply for a final forfeiture. Then there is a central account where monetary assets are normally put, dedicated for NDLEA, EFCC, and all law enforcement agencies vested with responsibility of enforcing the Money Laundering Act, which is situated with the Attorney General. Then after that, now auctioneers, licensed auctioneer will be called, Bureau for Public Enterprises, and all of them. Then those assets will now be auctioned to the general public, and none of our officers or officers of NDLEA is allowed to be entitled to benefit from such property. Now, when it was realized in the 1930s that these drug cartels were making a lot of money, so the FBI now devised like a method, two methods of getting to arrest and apprehend these criminals who are masking their criminal activities through money laundering. So they say there are three things that one can do with money. You can either hide it, you can deposit it, and you can spend it. So the method known as the network analysis was introduced by the American FBI, and the source and application method, where the assets of a person standing investigation will be computed within some number of years, maybe 3 years or so. So, like expenditure and the income, the expenditure will now be, the income will be subtracted from the expenditure, and you get to know the money that emanated, that is dirty money. Then there's the other one, the source and application too. Those are the ones that are used. So now, very fast about this issue is that the methods employed by these money launderers are normally three. First and foremost, the launderer, after selling his drugs and getting a lot of money, he will now want to introduce the money into the financial system. And that method is called placement. So what he does is that after he has sold the drugs, probably to drug users, the money normally comes in a smaller denomination. So he will change it to bigger denomination for easy carriage. Then he'll get somebody in the bank who was in the bank who will now assist him so that he will launder the money in consideration of certain percentage of the money that he will give the person. So in this stage, the launderer will want to develop complex layers of transaction in the second layer, which is known as money laundering, doing a lot of invoicing, creating false paper trails, and so on, moving money from one place to the other. That is in the second phase. Then when it reaches the third phase, is known as the phase of integration. That is, the money will now be commingled into the economy. Probably he will buy real property, or he will buy car shops, or if there is an ailing corporation that is about to be wound up, he will put money there and now resuscitate it. So when it reaches that stage, it will become very difficult now for law enforcement now to get to that launderer. But most recently, terrorist financiers also who are together. That's because our jurisdiction is not just about money laundering and drug alone. We are also part of enforcement of Terrorism Prevention Amendment Act of 2013. Section 16 specifically made all law enforcement agencies co-enforcers of that act, including NDLEA, while the National Security Advisor's Office is the coordinating agency. The SSS is the one that provides intelligence, and the Office of the Honorable Attorney General is the prosecutor. So these are some of the things that we do in NDLA. But as we progress with this discussion and intervention by yourself and question asked, many other things will come up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ibrahim, my good friend. I call him Oremi Ibro. Now we're going to open the space for those that may want to, ask questions or make contributions. Now, who do we have? Let's go ahead with that, please.
Okay, right now we are going to take Mr. Emmanuel.
Okay,
Mr. Emmanuel, please, you can unmute yourself and speak now.
Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
Yes, sir. My name is Morgan here. I'm based from Sioux State, Layfair.
Okay.
Thank you very much for this platform. I'm really grateful for this. I'm so grateful for this platform. Okay, sir. I was one of the state president of the Big World at District Chapter in 2011. Before I hand over, my my question today is going to be on what is NDLEA doing concerning dropping cloth in schools? Because I was made to understand that dropping cloth in schools, higher institution, and NYSC grant is to educate the youth on the effects of hard drug and also sanitize the mind of the youth against this illicit drug in our society. But one thing I've noticed so far is that some of these students or some of us in the club are left alone, even when we tried on our own to pay course visit to the NDLA. Like I was present in the Edo State chapter, then when I was secondary school, we pay course visit to the NDLEA to see how we can build a stronger relationship with them so we can push forward. But whenever it's on 26th of June, which is always World Drug Day, we notice that schools with private schools are more involved, which I know is quite good, but these schools don't have trophy club. But the ones that have this trophy club, they are sometimes neglected and not pay attention to. So some of us have to sponsor our own self with our finance to see that we are involved in these activities and to see that the club keep growing in secondary schools. So these are some of the challenges we are facing. Like, I'm no longer the president right now, but I'm speaking on behalf of what they are facing, because we have a group chat from Edo State chapter where we talk ex-leaders and current members and presidents as well, ESCOs. So what is NDLEA doing on their own to see that these clubs stand firm in schools and they are being carried along? Because even myself, I've tried to write ideas out on how to say, okay, bring a Ministry of Education, bring NDLEA, bring other bodies together to see that these things stand strong. But I can't do it because it's not going to be easy for me as an individual is no longer in power to push for it. So what is NDLEA doing to see that this bridge, this gap is being covered up, to see that at the end of the schools have a strong drug club and students are well educated about this fight against drug in our society today? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate your contribution. Quickly, you would have seen that the whole idea has been, that is, the advocacy has been repackaged under the War Against Drug Abuse, that is WADA. And now we're taking it round. I can tell you that if you have any event or any activity to do in your club, in any school, whether public or private, just contact the nearest command of the agency. If you have any issue there, please come into my DM or the DM of the agency. We will attend to you within the shortest possible time. That you can rest assured about. You will get results almost immediately. I'll tell you, we take seriously the issue of getting the people, that is the citizens themselves, to take ownership of this war. And one of such platforms is the drug fleet, which we also call WADA clubs now, whether in the tertiary institutions, in secondary or primary schools. We are very concerned and passionate about that now. So rest assured that now, henceforth, with the passion in the agency, with the coming of the new chairman, that is General Marwa, in January last year, all of those lukewarm attitude had changed. You can rest assured that if you approach the agency now for any collaboration or resource person, you will definitely get the attention needed. Thank you. Can we take more contributions, please?
Okay, right now we are going to call on Sir Mighty. Sir Mighty, please, you have the floor now.
Good evening. My name is Komedo Godepe Sheyi Olaniyi from Akure, Ondo State. I am actually talking regarding what has been happening in Akure in the space of a year and 2 years. Now, there is this particular substance called squishes. Squishes has now been an household thing in Akure, and this thing is very, very injurious to the health of many, many persons. Now, through our own parallel investigation as a member of Akure Youth Coalition, we got to understand that some of the officers of the NDLEA, I can make mention of names, I can mention names. But if this platform permits me to mention names, now I can actually mention names. Some of these officers, they really collect money from these people who sell squishes. And after that, they have the ability to actually sell it around. Now, to not worsen the matter, anytime they arrest them, they will collect their freezer, they will collect some of these exhibits. Now, and after that, they will return it back to them in space of a week without no prosecution. Now, in Akure, this week, 2 persons died of consuming this particular squishes. Now, squishy is this chemical-oriented drugs with cannabis, with marijuana, with all that many other things, tramadol and many other things. Please, NDLEA Ondo State have not been working regarding the issue of squishes in Ondo State. Please, I know many of officers that after collecting money from these particular people, then they have the liberty to actually do it. I will appreciate if the agency can actually help us to actually work tirelessly regarding this, in curbing this particular injuriousness in Akure, because squishy has now been an household thing when it comes to Akure. So that's what I actually have to say. Thank you. God bless you.
Very well. Thank you, Sheyi. This platform has been made available for us to get feedback from members of the public. I can tell you that I'm sure, Sheyi, you have my uh, Twitter handle. Please go to my DM, give me all the names you say you know, and I can assure you, I do know that the command in Ondo State has been mopping up squishes. I get a report of that every day. Don't forget, they don't operate only in Akure, which is the state capital. I know in the last 3 weeks, they faced seriously the assets of Ondo, that's Ondo town, Idanre, Ileoluji. Those assets, I know they've been arresting quite a lot of dealers of these squishes. Squishes is just, don't forget, the reason, I think last year we arrested a woman of over 80 years and her granddaughter in relation to these squishes of a thing. We seized thousands of bottles of squishes from her, even though her son, who was the prime target of that operation, escaped, and I believe he's still at large. But then I can assure you that if you have any information, even regarding dealers and whoever you think is compromising the work, please send me the details in my DM. You will see a difference. Thank you. I appreciate your contribution from Amici. Now that we take, I believe Dr. Kemi Olunloyo is on standby. Let's take our contribution, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Babafemi. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
How's everybody here? Mahmood, how are you? This afternoon, I want to talk about MDMA, and I know very much about MDMA. Being a clinical and retail pharmacist in America for about 32 years, and I did a lot of drug abuse prevention. The drug abuse prevention I did in America is on my pinned tweet. For those who don't know, they can go to my page and look at the pinned tweet. And like I always say every Friday, there are a lot of very, very big top officials that commended me for something I did myself in the Baltimore, Maryland community. The President of the United States, governors, mayors, everybody. I feel proud because I did it in my 30s and now I'm almost in my 60s and I'm now doing it in my country. MDMA, this is a very bad drug that I want to talk about. And I'm not going to take all your time and everything. I'll come back again and talk, but on this time I have the mic, Mr. Babafemi, and everybody listening, you need to be awake if you have young people in your house, young people you're related to. I always say to myself, if they don't control MDMA, a lot of young people are going to die in Nigeria this year. MDMA, you might know it as Molly. And a lot of you saw Molly trending on Twitter this week. Molly is 3,4-methylene dioxymethamphetamine. I know that's a big word. Methylene dioxymethamphetamine. Any pharmacist will tell you that chemistry is the favorite subject. So if I said 3,4, those are chemical structures. Methylene, okay? Methylene sounds like something in petrol, something in a hydrocarbon. Dioxymethamphetamine. Let's just cut the first part out. Methamphetamine is how it ends. MDMA. This is Molly. If you go to America, you'll hear them call it MDMA. You'll hear Molly, you'll hear Pingers. There's all kinds of names for it. And one of the biggest problems we have in Nigeria now is parents. And this is where I come in. I'm only doing this on my own. I have no affiliation with NDLEA. I'm not a contractor. I'm not an ambassador. I'm nothing. I'm just a member of the community that feels I can make a difference, just like I did in Baltimore. The only difference is that this is my country and I'm inside it now. So if you have young people, Molly is very, very common. And I'm not here to shame anybody, okay? Because I've done a lot when it comes to getting people into rehab over there. Rehab over here is more expensive than rehab in America. Now, this drug was found inside a car, a brand new car, along with cannabis loud Molly in one of the Marlians' cars when they made that arrest. There was Molly in the car and some Molly in the house. Okay, now, Zeno, Mobad, and their friends, they're working with the NDLEA now, and I spoke on their behalf to give them a chance because they don't understand what these drugs can do when it comes to other things you don't think about. Okay, Peter Okoye always has his One Africa concert in New York, in Dubai. And I said to Naira Marley, you're not going to be able to get this kid's visas to go out there because of these drug convictions and stuff. So my thing is, talking to Zeno, you need to get off this stuff. You need to get it out. So going straight to the point, MDMA Molly is in Nigeria, and a lot of artists are singing about it, okay? That's not unusual. This show is about glamorizing drugs. At least that's what we're talking about today. People that pretty much, want to, let me just see something, I'm sorry, how to avoid the allure of drug abuse and the addiction. So peer pressure is very much involved with the Molly. And if my friend's using it, I want to use it. Here's what I want to tell parents and other people in this space. Okay, this is a drug. I'm going to use some chemical words, some pharmaceutical words, and I'll use it in layman's terms, okay? A layman's term in America, we always say 8th grade language. So 8th grade language is primary 4 language. In other words, a 12-year-old will understand what I'm talking about. Okay, this drug, okay, causes release of serotonin and norepinephrine, okay, than that of dopamine. I'll tell you what these things are. We already release serotonin in our brains every day. We already release norepinephrine, okay? But MDMA causes an increase of the release of them. These are neurotransmitters, okay? Let's take the neuro out. You know what a transmitter is? Something that makes another thing work. We need a transmitter to get television into our house. The transmitter must be coming from the station. We need a transmitter for radio. So a neurotransmitter is something coming from the brain. The brain is signaling something to do another thing, okay? When you're hungry, okay, when you take phentermine, okay, and Mr. Babafemi, I'm going to tell you about phentermine later in this show.
Oh, Lord, don't come again.
When you,
Tell me his voice.
yeah, it's my voice.
Yes, she's here.
Yeah, it's me. Somebody's in the, can you mute your phone 1 second? Can you mute your speaker, Francis? 1 second. Francis, mute your speaker. I want to finish this part. It's very important. So neurotransmitters, okay, are released in our brains every day, and they very much play an important role in the regulation of our mood, our sleep, our pain, and our appetite. Now, there is one drug that I want the NDLEA to start looking at and targeting. That drug is not marketed in America anymore, but it's being marketed in Nigeria legally without anybody's, supervision, not even NAFDAC. This is where NAFDAC comes in. It's phentermine. It's a diet appetite suppressant. If you take phentermine, the brain will tell the stomach, hey, look, stomach, you're full, you can't eat. Now, it's addictive, and it's been sold without prescriptions. It's been sold online, and that needs to go. So what happens with MDMA is serotonin and norepinephrine are increased in a bigger quantity. They're mood-elevating drugs, and they can kill you. Now, let me explain how serotonin works and norepinephrine. Let me give you a good, this is just examples, please, everybody. I just want you to learn. Femi Otedola, we know that he's a billionaire, he's rich and everything. I've never met Femi. I know his family well, his dad and all that. Okay, supposing I now go into his DM on Instagram. Hi, Femi, I'm Kemi Olunloyo. I'm a journalist. I'm sure you know me. I want to open my own radio station, TV station. I need you to fund me. I'm asking people who would love to fund me and blah, blah, blah. And I've always wanted to do that. Suddenly, I get a response from Femi Otedola, and he says, hi, Kemi, how are you? I love your work. I know about you, da, da, da. Send me your account number. So here I am sitting down, and I'm expecting maybe he'll send me 5 million, 3 million. And I wake up the next day, and I find 150 million in my account. You know how my brain is going to respond. That's serotonin, okay? So serotonin will be released in a high amount, but it'll control itself like happiness. Oh, I'm happy, okay? Norepinephrine and serotonin. I'm happy. So I might jump out of my bed, go to the next room, tell my son, and sometimes you might jump out of your house and tell your neighbor. I mean, Some people wouldn't tell their neighbor. I wouldn't tell. Is it like, Femi Ojalala just send me 150 million? The joy. That is what increased norepinephrine does. Now, serotonin, that's the one that Prozac, an antidepressant, controls. The same Kemi that just got 150 million from Otedola is sitting there now, happy, and suddenly somebody walks into my house now. I'm like, hi, Dr. Olunlayo, I am Constable Bamishe or Constable Oluwash, somebody. From where? From the police station. Your son was killed by a truck this morning. Where? What? What? Do you know what happens to you when you first get that news? Serotonin will come out. Sadness. That's what happens. Norepinephrine, you're happy. That's what MDMA does. That's what Molly does. It gives you this level of excitement and everything. You might be excited out there now. One of my neighbors was just asking me what these things do. And I came upstairs and said, okay, hi, Grace, how are you? How are you today? Everything well, okay. I smell what you're cooking. We made bangasu. We have my own dad. So Grace gives me bangasu. I'm going upstairs. Oh, I'll see you later. The minute I enter the house, I'm sad again. And that's serotonin. So one is controlling happiness over happiness, and one is controlling sadness over sadness. This is what happens to people that take MDMA. They will be sad for nothing, and one day they wake up and take a knife and stab themselves, kill themselves, or even kill the next person in the next room. This is what MDMA does. This is why we need to get this Molly off the streets. And I personally want some harsh sentences for Molly, because these are psychedelic drugs. MDMA, Molly, but the famous name is ecstasy. Okay, that's what I want to talk about right now, and I'm done. Give somebody else some time to talk. I'll come back on fentanyl later on, probably at the end of the show, but I'll be listening. So that's what I want to say about that, Femi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kemi. You are obviously preempting me because I actually have that particular discussion scheduled on this. I'm sure I will still bring it up in another 1 or 2 weeks because of certain developments based on our operations on the field, certain information that we need to share with people on this space. So we'll be bringing that up because of that's quite a lot of names. Some call it happy pills. Mm-hmm. Some call it your Friday drug. Mm-hmm. It's we are following them. We have a team following those marketing or selling it on WhatsApp status. That is because they know we are on social media. We are following and monitoring them on social media. Now they have turned to their WhatsApp platform, and we're doing everything possible to track a number of them. We're locating some of them, I can assure you. I wouldn't want to preempt the things I will be sharing on this but I think you are just a very good visionary who probably sees or knows what is happening in my mind or what we're planning here. I give it all to you. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Mr.
Now,
yes,
please.
Mr. Babafemi, one last thing before I mute myself.
Hello.
I want you to bring more people here that are experts in the rehab area. I want doctors who are in the rehab hospital. I want you to bring more rehab doctors here who are actually treating these people, because ecstasy is going to be geared to the secondary school student and the primary school student. The JSS 2 and 3 and the SS1 are the target of ecstasy, because their parents must know, and their parents cannot afford to pay for treatment. Okay, so I want you guys to bring more experts here in the rehab section. These parents are going to pay 1 million naira a month to treat a 12-year-old on ecstasy. They don't know what they're getting into, so they must know these drugs. Thank you.
Thank you. I can assure you we'll do that. Now, can we take more contributions or questions? Don't forget, we seem to be more particular about drug use and blah, 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 where where nobody wants to talk about the money laundering aspect of the job. But then I still have with us on the space my friend Dr. Ibrahim Abdul, who is the Director of Assets and Financial Investigations at the agency. Now, Dele, can we have more?
Okay, sir. So right now we are going to take Mr. John Ogunjimi. Mr. John Ogunjimi, you can unmute yourself and talk now.
Thank you very much. I'm John Ogunjimi. I'm a forensic scientist, and I really want to say a very big well done to NDLEA for this space. As someone who has tried in the past to contact the NDLEA, I was conducting a research on forensic science in the practice in Nigeria. It was quite difficult to reach anyone at that time, but I'm sure if this kind of space was available, that would have been an easy task. So well done with this work. I've been joining for quite a while now. And I have just a few questions and contributions. Number one, I think that will be about 4 weeks ago now, on this space, Mr. Babafemi mentioned that there has been an approval for forensic laboratories. I think if I remember clearly, maybe he said about 6 forensic laboratories in Nigeria for the NDLEA. My concern or question is, what are the efforts being made to train personnel to man these resources? Because one of the challenges we have with forensics in Nigeria is the underutilization of available resources. The crime labs, there's one alleged in Abuja and one in Lagos. They are grossly underutilized, as we heard. So what are the efforts being made to equip these laboratories and to train personnel to handle them? In the same line with that, we've seen videos and pictures of arrests being made of drugs, and quite honestly, I feel that if, as an expert witness, or if these kind of cases go to court, and the defense counsel has a very strong lawyer, the approach that the drugs are being seized or the handling of those evidence is questionable in forensics. I don't know what kind of forensics trainings do the officers receive in handling evidence so that they can be preserved, the crime scene can be preserved. What kind of forensics is actually done in this? On the other side of it, I went through the National Drug Control Master Plan. I went through it and I see that it's a very resourceful document, and if Nigeria can really achieve that by 2025, the story will be different. I mean, controlling the supply and the demand of drugs. In that line, my question is, what efforts are being made to stigmatize drugs without stigmatizing the victims of drug abuse, while at the same time cracking down on the drug pushers and making sure that the supply is also being adequately controlled to limit the available drugs in circulation, especially through the seaports. I know that a lot is done at the airports. At least we see some things, but through the seaports, the airport is just one of the ways to enter into the country. Through the seaports, are there efforts being made in that line? Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. John Ogunjimu. I appreciate your compliments on what we're doing at the moment. Now, quickly on the forensic lab, it was just something. I think the agency has just one in Lagos as of today, and because of arrests and seizures of drugs made all over the country, these things will have to go to Lagos for analysis and what have you. And before they come back, because of the time wasting, that is why the agency made appeals to the federal government and the president in particular. And that request was granted. I believe we'll be starting with 3 labs across the country, then subsequently another 3, so that each geopolitical zone can have a forensic lab, a well-equipped one. I can assure you what we're doing will be model labs, not just ordinary labs. Then two, I'll tell you, I will assure you that our operatives are well trained in handling of exhibits, drug exhibits, definitely. And when some of these things are taken to court, we have 90% conviction rate. It means we're doing it right. Two, you talked about NDCMP. Thank you again for the compliment there. That was a whole lot of effort to produce that document. And talking about what we are doing to stigmatize the drugs without necessarily stigmatizing the users. I believe we're already doing that on this platform. Don't forget, Dr. Kemi Oluloyo just spoke about Molly, and I have also spoken about it. And we keep talking about these drugs and how to avoid them, and all that is geared towards is to stigmatize the drugs, in quote, according to your words now, without necessarily stigmatizing the users. We believe the users are victims who we're trying to help to get out of the situation. Now, coming to what we do at the seaports, I can tell you that what we see at the seaports are much more than what we even see at the airports. Just today, if you follow our social media handles, you would have seen a statement we released today, which I believe has been shared now. Well, yeah, they just shared it on this space now about the seizure of 3 million capsules of pharmaceutical opioids that were imported from India. These opioids are more dangerous and potent than tramadol. The importers produce all manner of documents, fake documents, to bring these things in. In fact, the initial records that we're working on show that it was imported, the container was imported from China, but with further investigation, we discovered that it was indeed brought in from India. And so 3 million capsules of that we seized this week at the seaports. And as I speak with you, I'm also aware that today, our men at the Apapa Seaport in Lagos have also seized cocaine and heroin. So we seize much more. When you talk of quantity, and even the drugs, even some that try to bring in cannabis from Canada, we also seize them at the seaport. Again, let me also tell you that just this week again, our operatives in Lagos also is accepted over 8,000 kilograms of loud cannabis. That was brought in from Ghana, smuggled in from Ghana through the waterways, and we tracked them and were able to intercept them at the Eco Atlantic beach on the island. So we do not leave our seaports or waterways unguided. We're always there, and we're giving them the tough time that they really demand. Okay, let's give other people some spaces.
Mr. Babafemi,
Yes, please.
please, before you give one person, the next person to talk, I have to say this. We are in a very state of emergency. I just saw 3,000 tablets of tapentadol entered Nigeria, and Soma, carisoprodol. These pharmaceuticals, Soma is carisoprodol, is a muscle relaxant. If you have an accident or you have a situation where you need muscle relaxant, that is what it's used for. and carisoprodol became addictive. In 1996, the FDA had to reclassify it. That drug is not marketed in Nigeria. It's marketed in the United States. If somebody were to be taking Soma and they're driving a taxi or a bus, their muscle will go relaxed and they can lose control. Soma is going to have, I keep saying Soma, but that's the drug you seize, carisoprodol. It's going to have a very bad effect on traffic. For those who are not awake, wake up, because this agency is doing a good job. If that kind of amount of carisoprodol enters the street and you say it's not your business and that other driver crashes because their muscle was super relaxed, every part of the skeletal muscles, then we all have a problem. The other drug, tapentadol, norepinephrine uptake inhibitor. These are very, very critical drugs, and every one of them have what they call hepatic metabolisms. In other words, liver is working hard. I'm not saying everybody that wants to go to do liver surgery in India and needs 20 million and they're begging on social media is a drug user, but this is some of the stuff we're looking at now. Everybody's having liver failure, These drugs are really working everything in the liver. So the potency of tapentadol, okay, carisoprodol, tramadol, all these things are comparable to what Percocet is carrying. Percocet is oxycodone, not marketed in Nigeria. So they are so much stronger than tramadol. Please, NDLEA, I wish I could give you a prize. Keep catching them. We can't have this on the streets. The whole country will be affected. People innocently going to work will die in traffic accident because the driver is using carisoprodol. These drugs must not enter Nigeria. And it's so important that I feel the NDLEA should communicate this with the DEA. There's a reason why I said that. Okay, Mr. Babafemi, you know we all put ideas together to help each other, right? So the reason why I'm saying that you guys should contact the DEA as well is because these are American marketed drugs, not marketed in Nigeria. NAFDAC needs to get involved. These are not marketed in Nigeria. They're abusive drugs. So the place where they're marketing it, let them know that it's entering Nigeria, because before you know it, they will ship it to America from here. You guys must have a communication path, a path. Somehow you have to have a communication thing there. This is serious. I didn't know. I just look at your page now and I just saw it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kemi Olunloyo. I can assure you that everything we're doing here, we're doing in collaboration and partnership with our partners out there, talking of DA in the US, Border Force in the UK, and all other in major countries across the world. So they are aware of what we have seized, and I'm glad you understand these issues well, and you can appreciate what the agency is doing. Seizing 3 million capsules of those drugs, that is huge. And we're grateful that we're able to intercept that and block that from going into our streets and communities to cause havoc in the lives of our people. Now, can we take more, please?
Okay, right now we are going to call on Miss Baudin Additional. Mr. Additional Yusuf.
Hello, good afternoon.
Go ahead, please. Good afternoon.
Yeah, please. My name is Ms. Baudin Additional. I am a digital marketer and I have been following the NDLEA for quite some time now. And I must really say, you guys have been doing a really, really great job. And it is one of the great things that happens in the country these days because anyway, let me not digress and say other things. The main reason of me being here is just to ask what the NDLEA are doing towards secondary school students, because secondary school students are really going to drugs these days, and it's just kind of as if the parents are not doing anything and they just see it as, because I recently had an issue with my younger brother that is currently in JSS2. He is into drugs, and I can't just imagine someone in JSS2 having to take drugs, and it just happened that he did not even know that it is just drug that he has been taking. He was using gum, sniffing gums from the bottle. So I don't know. So I wanted to ask what the NDNA are doing towards such kind of teenagers that doesn't even know what they are doing and just doing it because they see it on TV and all that.
Thank you very much, Adesina. You can see how appalling that can be for a GSS2 student. Obviously, he got that either through peer pressure or what he or she sees on social media. But I can assure you that beyond our advocacy to the schools to educate them, we are also ensuring that we're working with the Federal Ministry of Education is a major stakeholder, and we have drug education now in the curriculum of these schools because they need these children right from primary school through secondary school. They need to be taught and told about these drugs and their effect on their lives and on their health. And so we can confirm to you that drug education is now part of the curriculum in schools. So what we're now doing is to now encourage the school authorities to make sure that these subjects are taught. They are not standalone subjects per se, but they are built into the curriculum of subjects like civic education, social studies, and what have you. So what we're now encouraging schools to do now is to play this up as a priority so that these children can understand from the basics the dangers inherent in some of these drugs. And that way, we believe that quite a lot of them would be conscious of it and they will run away from it. And that's why we're also trying to, as much as possible, reach as many as we can through the social media. And beyond that, we are partnering with faith-based organizations because we believe our people are religious people. So we're encouraging the imams in the mosque, the pastors in the churches to make these issues as part of their sermons on Fridays in the mosque and on Sundays in the churches, so that these children can also hear and learn about these things right from their religious worship centers. Beyond that, we also them resource persons, resource materials to go into these schools to organize seminars, workshops, and the likes, just to educate these young ones. I will believe definitely that we'll get there and we'll get over this by the grace of God. Now let's take more, please.
Okay, now we are going to call on Mr. Ahmed Adeyemi. Mr. Ahmed Adeyemi.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Babatemi and NDLEA for hosting this very informative space. And I must commend the NDLEA for what you've been doing quite recently. You seem to be repositioning yourself as an agency into where you're supposed to be, which is at the front line of drug problems that's currently ravaging Nigeria. And on that note, I just want to give maybe one or two pieces of advice to you. So I work in the field of smoking cessation. I have a PhD in medicinal and pharmaceutical chemistry. So I just want to give an advice on something because it seems the kinetics of the operations, the arrests are being made. We see your officers carrying out raids and raids and raids. But it seems you do very little in terms of technical / scientific arrest, so to say. So I'll give you one instance. Your men are very prominent. They're very visible at the airport. And anytime I travel in and out of Lagos, Muritala Mohammed International Airport, I see them and I try to observe their work because because I know that there's quite a lot that can be done. And if you go to the airport today and you see how does the NDLEA officer check who's trying to smuggle drugs, and I'm not trying to get into your intelligence now, but one thing that is conspicuously missing is the type of iron trap, the quick machine that detects wherein they could just swap people's bags and immediately detect if they have if they are users, at least to the barest minimum. And I think that your agency needs to do that. You need that visibility at our ports. I mean, and I'll just give you an example of what typically happens when you go to Lagos Airport. Is they ask you, "Oh, where are you going?" And one day I engaged one of the NDLEA officers, and he says, "Oh, if you are going to Italy or if you are going to this and that location, then we begin to suspect you. But sir, it seems you are going to a kinder country." And then I begin to wonder. At this point, we're letting so much slip through. And not only that, we put the agency as more like a 1990s gung-ho military organization, and that is not what NDLEA is. And the work you're doing is way more than that. So maybe if this is something that you could discuss in your leadership team, Mr. Babafemi, try to be more technical, try to be more scientific. We had the forensic analysts come here earlier on and also spoke on this. I think, sorry? Okay, I think someone was coming in, but and so my second advice also will be to continue this kind of awareness we are doing, and because quite frankly, it's becoming so widespread that people don't even know the right from the wrong in terms of what type of things they should take, what type of drugs are allowed. So I think the more we do kind of spaces like this, there should also be outreach in villages, in corners. And just to round up, I want to also put a challenge to you, Mr. Babafemi, that most people in various areas in Nigeria know where people smoke weed, where people buy weed. And to me, that's a challenge to the intelligence part of the organization. Is it that they don't go in there, or is it that they look away? And I'm going to yield on that point. But very good job so far, sir, and to your agency. Kudos to the Oga at the top.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed Adeyemi. I appreciate all the points you raised. Now, let me quickly explain probably shed light on some of the issues you raised. Now, in the area of, I can tell you that in this age and time, it is not possible for the agency to work without the help of technology. We do. Maybe it depends on, there are not things I want to be discussing in the open space like this, but we do. We have scanners, we have all of those things. And let me give you an instance. Maybe that will help you to understand how these things work. In the past years, up to the 2020, you will notice that, and these were the things that were giving Nigeria bad image abroad. You will notice that our people were being arrested at airports abroad because they were taking drugs from here to other parts of the world. But can you recall if between 2021, January 2021 precisely, and now, if you have ever heard of any such? The answer is no. There is something that has made that difference. And that is now it is extremely difficult. Don't forget that we have quite a number of ways, quite a number of techniques One, we work with intelligence. Two, technology is paramount in what we do. Three, again, we use what we call sniffer dogs. So all of these combined, they can never get it wrong. At least the three cannot fail. So I can tell you that when it comes to technology, yeah, it's never enough. We don't have it all, but then at the moment we're using technology to do our work. Like I said again, we work on intelligence. Our operations is intelligence based. Then two, we have at the moment the German government is supporting the work of the agency to build. They're building a canine school worth €2 million in Lagos for the agency. So it means we are doing something right with our procedures and our techniques. I appreciate your contribution, your concern in that area. Yeah, we're acquiring more equipment. That is a fact because, like I said, it's not enough. But then we do use equipment, especially at the airports that you mentioned. Now, again, awareness, definitely where we don't just limit what we do to this space, we also go to the grassroots. It's unfortunate that what you see reported in the media are usually arrests and seizures. But I can tell you that we have much more in the area of advocacy activities across all the states every day than even the seizures and arrests that we make. But because usually the bad news sells in the media. So that is why you see attention more on the drug supply reduction activities, that is the seizures and arrests. So we're actually taking the message to all the stakeholders, the traditional rulers, the faith-based organizations, the community-based organizations, community leaders, and the people themselves. Then you talk about black spots, that is these joints. I can assure you that we continue to raid them, but more often than not, we go, because I keep citing this example, when you have a flood, you don't keep going to where the flood spreads to pump the water. You locate the source, then plug it there. When you plug it there, it's easier for you to now go out and mop where the flood has spread to. But if you continue to mop without locking the source, whatever you are doing, will end up in vain or a futile. But then, as at the moment, I can tell you, we're not only mopping where these drugs, anyone that escape into the communities, but we are at the same time, don't forget that you have 200 million persons to police. So with how many officers? So we cannot be everywhere at the same time, that I can assure you. But then in one single year, that is last year alone, we made 12,306 arrests. That is the highest in history. Beyond that, we had convictions over about 1,400, with about 1,502 others ongoing in the courts. Then we had about 8,000 other persons cancelled and rehabilitated. A number of them through brief interventions. So all of this we are doing. That's to show you that we are trying as much as possible to ensure that we win this war, and we believe we will win it with the support of people like you. Thank you very much for your contribution. We have taken note of the points, the areas we need to improve on. We will continue to improve on them. Now, can we take more? I think maybe just about one or two more, because we don't really have the time today. I want to assure everyone on this space that I still have prominent here, the Director of Assets and Financial Investigation, Dr. Ibrahim Abdul. So if you want to direct your questions to him, if you need anything in that regard, please raise it. He's still on ground. He's still on this space. Thank you.
All right. Now we are going to take, from here I can see 11th base concept. Please, can you unmute yourself down and talk?
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Femi. Thank you very much for the time. I'll be directing my choice of perspective on this to areas where we have these Fulanis who sell drugs around the street. I need to be very, very, very clear. If whoever that sells drugs in Lagos should have a certificate of them selling drugs, because high percentage of this young Fulanis who sells drugs with a bit of cabins around the streets have majority of these drugs. Dr. Kemi has so much talked about that. So basically, I think the NDLEA should work deeply, working with maybe probably police department around these routes. This drug comes in different ways that you cannot even imagine. I have a young kid who died of these drugs. I can tell you for a fact, the Fulanis, those young Fulanis who come down to settle with your brothers around, make sure everybody who sells drugs in Lagos have their certificates. Because you see a young woman who sells alcohol still selling drugs. You see a lot of people having, these people have drugs, hidden drugs within them. These are where these boys go patronize. So basically, we've been on this space for a long time, and we're always on this space whenever Dr. Kemi comes up with any of our, with all our huge news, which we are very happy about. But for this, I think the NDLEA should dig deeper, work with, police within these areas, and call out all these guys who are hidden, because they are hidden everywhere within Lagos. I think that's and secondly, the logistic bike that we call logistic companies. We still need to dig into these people, because there are many ways this drug have been said people and how people get to buy them, how people get to purchase them. So I think, Mr. Femi, these are more deeper areas I think you should also look at, please. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much. Your observations are notable. I want to enjoin you that next time, if you are making this contribution, let's not stereotype any particular sect or tribe in the country. This is a global problem, and it is every community in Nigeria. So let's not, I'm sure in the course of your contribution, you did say even the women who sell herbs, I'm sure those ones are not Fulanis. I'm just saying this just so that we are not, you don't portray yourself as ethnically biased.
Very true.
Now,
Very true. I'm very, very sorry for that. Very, very true.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, we definitely, one of the things we encourage in regard to what you have said, and we're getting a lot of cooperation in that regard, that is communities. The whole essence of war against drug abuse is to mobilize everybody so that we can take ownership of it. These people who sell these things on street corners, the residents of that community or those areas know them. What are they doing about it? I keep citing the issue, what happened in the Southeast. Look at the way the communities in the Southeast rose up during this Umpurumiri crisis in the Southeast. That is the spirit of WADA, when the people themselves will stand up and say, no, you cannot stay in this community and do this. Because what they are selling, they are harmful to the communities, to their children. So why would you keep quiet? Then it is those communities that are supposed to rise up. When it's beyond them, then they should contact the nearest command of the agency. And like I give it to the people in Lekki, quite a number of those estates, they are coming up, in this regard. Those that cannot do anything, they are reporting, they are giving information. So that is the way it should be. Let's not all sit back and say, NDLEA should come to this street, NDLEA should come to that street. These are how many are we in NDLEA compared to the population of the country? Yeah, we have that responsibility, but indeed we need, it's a shared responsibility, it's a whole society approach if we have to get over this. Now the logistic bikes, like you said, that is these dispatch riders. I can tell you, we have been on their case and our eyes are not off them yet. As many as we get delivering drugs to those who order drugs online, we mob them and take them out of the streets. Apart from seizing their bikes, we are aware that some of our commands are already also meeting with the logistics companies, because the first thing is when this happens, their business, their investment is in jeopardy, because they will have to forfeit their motorcycles to the government. Apart from seizing the exhibits and sending the rider to prison, to jail, including whoever is selling, or the dealer, while even the consumer may have to even go through rehabilitation ultimately. So you will see the hammer falls more on this on the dealers and their couriers, that is the logistics people. So it's in their interest to rein in their riders, because our eyes are on them. In Abuja, we have dealt with them. In Lagos, we will deal with them because we have been also following them up. Thank you very much, my brother. I think I just recorded you as 11-page concept. Now, can we take one more, please, so that we close the space for today?
Okay, now we are going to take the last person, which is Mr. Mustafa. Mr. Mustafa, please, you have the floor now.
Hello, my name is Mustafa Mohammed. I live in Maiduguri, Borno State, Nigeria. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say my advice here, and thank you NDLEA for doing a great job in Nigeria. Thank you. What I like to share with you is, over the years in Maiduguri, we have been experiencing the insurgency, and that grant access for drugs, rapidly drugs in Borno State anywhere you go. So the last time I visited one of the IDP camps in Maiduguri, I observed that there are so many young people, young age, that are in drugs. So the point I like to raise here is that most of the security agencies here in Borno State only focus on the insurgents, and not knowing that those people, those thugs and those bad people and dealers, they are using that opportunity to transport a huge amount of these drugs into Borno State. And believe me, visit one of the maybe IDP or one of the local community here in Borno State, you will understand what I'm saying. Because you cannot believe when you see a young people, they can kill their friends just because of argument or a girlfriend. They can kill without knowing that they are killing their friends. So I believe what leads to that is drugs, because those people are now in drugs. They can check drugs and they can get drugs anywhere they are, because it's rapidly accessible in Borno State. So I want to advise NDLEA to also put more effort. I'm not saying they are not doing their job, but in Borno State, to be honest, they need to be more proactive. Like they need to put more efforts for both camps, the local communities, to have people that can observe, because there are so many people there using that opportunity to sell, because the security are no longer, and those people are no longer the security fire. They are not longer under the, they are not priority, because all the securities here, they are all about how to, they're all about the insurgent, but not knowing that some young age are using that opportunity to be drugs and to be rich within the community. Thank you for doing a great job.
Thank you very much, Mustafa Mohammed. We appreciate your contribution, and I can assure you that the information you have passed would also be passed to the appropriate command of the agency. But then I also want to assure you that I know that our Borno State Command has been making returns of drug seizures and arrests in that Maiduguri. Come to think of it, quite a number of drugs seized between Lagos and Yobe State. Quite a number of them are meant for Maiduguri, but our men along the route intercept them. So just imagine if those thousands of kilograms of drugs had not been intercepted in Ogun State, in Ondo State, in Benue State, in Plateau State, in Bauchi State, even as far as Adamawa State, because these people move these things through a lot of routes with the aim of getting them delivered to insurgents in the northeast and the bandits in the northwest. But then on the route, on their way, that's why you have quite a number of our men on the road 24/7 to monitor movements and intercept these things. But then I would continue to do more until we can't rest on our oars yet. We have done so much, but then we can't rest on our oars yet until we make sure that the last gram of illicit drugs on the street is totally taken out, so that we can have peace, law, and order in our country. Now, before we close, I want to give my good friend here, since you people felt because he wasn't on the space last week, so you were not going to be asking him anything today, but then I'll give him another 1 or 2 minutes to wrap up on whatever he has, in addition to what he has said before, so that we can close the space for the week.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babafemi, and participants for your wonderful intervention. One other important issue which I have not raised when I was making my submission initially was the power of the NDLEA under Section 4 to apprehend anybody whose means of livelihood is not commensurate to his own income. Initially, that section was under Section 13 of the NDLEA Act 1989, NDLEA decree, but later on the NDLEA Act N30 now took it into it and gave us that power that with the consent of the Attorney General of the Federation, NDLEA has power to cause investigation into the assets of anybody whose means of livelihood is not commensurate to his income. Alternatively, NDLEA has the power also to go to court to apply through ex parte application to block the account of such persons. You know, in Nigeria, even when there are provisions of the law, if they have not been tested, anytime you see a proactive agency making effort to test that law, it will seem as if it is a new thing. Just like when the stamp duty issue was recently brought to bear, it has been there since the colonial era. So therefore, the NDLA now in its own bid to make sure that it leaves no stone unturned as far as the power given to us by the NDLA Act is concerned, you will be seeing a lot of arrests of people who are living beyond their means. And as you know, the Financial Action Task Force created by the G7 summit in an attempt to protect their financial system from reputational, legal risk, operational risk, and liquidity risk, they made it mandatory for all nations of the world to put such countermeasures in its own laws to make sure that such kind of people are apprehended, investigated. And if you remember from 2001, 2000, 2003, Nigeria was blacklisted by FAT because of some major infractions, which we have successfully corrected, especially the removal of the duty of secrecy which banks owes to its customer. Now in Nigeria, under Section 13, every bank and financial institution must oblige NDLEA its own request when it seeks for the statement of account of their customer. So the duty of secrecy which banker owes to its customer has now been demolished by Section 13 of the NDLEA Act, giving the NDLEA power to enter any financial investigation to request financial document regarding such kind of people who are living beyond their risks. And any country who did not comply with the instruction of the Financial Action Task Force is likely to suffer from reputational risk, from legal risk, operational risk, liquidity risk, and subsequent isolation. Even business, if you don't have even the minimal requirement of complying with these countermeasures by Financial Action Task Force, that country will be facing a lot of sanctions. Right now, Nigeria is making effort to even sign into law the Proceeds of Crime Act, which will enable competent authorities now to make seizure, to do an action in rem, that is action against property as opposed to action in personnel, action against person, so that if we see any money or stumble on any money and we don't know the ownership, we can take the matter to court and say, for instance, Federal Republic of Nigeria against the money. Whoever thinks he is man enough, let him come and claim the money. And if the money cannot be claimed, definitely the money will be forfeited and it will be put in the forfeited assets account designated in the office of the Attorney General, and the money will be used for sustainable economic development of this nation. Thank you very much, Mr. Femi.
Yes, thank you very much, my good friends, Dr. Ibrahim Abdul. Thank you again to all those that have joined us on this space today, because I want us to go and enjoy our weekend. I wouldn't want to hold us down here. That's why we believe we have to go at this point. But then I can assure you that next week promises to be another interesting time here. I'm sure for those who may be contemplating going into drug dealing, trafficking, or what have you, now you know that it doesn't even have to wait till drugs are discovered on you. The agency has a full directorate saddled with the responsibility and empowered by the law to go after those suspected to be living above their means to investigate you and possibly seize your assets. Now you have a responsibility to come and explain how you got those assets. So let's play by the rules. Let's run away from anything that will put us in trouble. It is better to be safe on the side of the law than it is better to be on the side of the law than to work against the law, because when it comes crashing, nobody will be there for you. On that note, I want to thank all our listeners once again, especially those that have made one contribution or the other, those that have made interventions, asked questions. We believe we had satisfied or answered you satisfactorily. And for those that also aspire to ask questions, but who we couldn't give the space because of time factor, we can assure you that we're not being, there is no preferential treatment here. It's just because of the time. Next week promises to be another time. You can rest assured that it may likely be your own time to have the space. Thank you all, and do have a wonderful evening.